I had to deal with this abandonment issue from my husband into the bargain. So psychotherapy became the way to rebuild myself from the inside out for me. It was like rewiring me from the inside out. And as a result of that, I later decided that I wanted to train in therapy myself. I wanted to become a therapist because I knew what it had done for me. I really don't think I would be here today without it. I certainly know from the consulting room that my clients come from all walks of life, and that includes the fabulous, gorgeous models, you know, who a lot of women would aspire to be like. I've seen it from the other side. And the wealthy millionaires and billionaires who've got it all, who are still saying, I'm not happy, I'm miserable, I'm depressed. So what we do know and we can conclude is that's not where it's at. But that's what we've been taught to think, that when I have X, Y or Z, then I'll be happy. And actually, it's an in and down job. It's not an out and up job.
Boom, we're on. Today's guest, we've got the gorgeous Angela Trainer. How are you, first of all?
Oh, I'm grand. I'm very grand indeed.
Yeah,
all the better for seeing you.
That's the kind of gift I've got, you know what I mean? You've led a very interesting life yourself, Angela. TEDx speaker, author. You've been a psychotherapist for over 30 years. You've been founder of the Harvest Clinic in Glasgow.
Indeed.
You battled cancer there. You beat cancer, which is the main one. So first of all, congratulations.
Well, thank you. I hope I'm not being too premature with that, but I always believe in great positivity. So we'll say that yes, certainly I've put the treatment behind me, and I plan to make a full and complete full recovery. Obviously, I'm only a few months out of a year of treatment, so we've got a wee bit to go in terms of full return to energy. But yeah, my energy's doing very, very well indeed.
Good, proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Fighting fit again, which is a good thing. It's always a positive. But we'll go right back to the start, Angela. Kind of where you grew up and how your life began and led to where you are just now. So
I had a really blessed, really privileged life in that I had two hard-working parents that were both reared from, you know, a working class backgrounds. My grandfather worked with his hands. He was a stonemason originally, and went on to more engineering type jobs in later life. And my paternal grandfather worked in the railways, and then worked in the unions, and then eventually worked in government. In fact, was involved in the development of the special unit. He was head of the visiting committee of the special unit in Berlin. That was one of his things that he was most proud of. So he went on to become a Strathclyde regional councillor. He was a magistrate for many years, but a humble guy that started out in the railways. 7 in one family, 5 in the other, fairly typical of its days. Origins beginning in the East End of Glasgow, and one side of the family in the Gorbals. If we go back generationally to immigrants from Ireland, in the days of yore, of the famine fame, who came over to Glasgow, to Scotland. So, from little acorns, great things sprang in my grandparents, and they brought up hardworking, people with strong moral values and integrity, that had a really good work ethic. So for that, I'm grateful to my parents. They instilled that in me, and they got together, and my father had a healthy dose of ambition. My mum was a stay-at-home mum, as was the way in the 1960s. Married 1 minute, pregnant the next. And I had 2 younger brothers. So we had a very blessed life in that my parents built their own house, because my grandfather was a stonemason, and got lots of favours from the building site pals. And they built a house out in Mulgai, a wee bungalow. And that was a very big thing in those days. And my father was made redundant when I think I was about 7. And that was, he worked in advertising, outdoor advertising. And when television came along, they basically made him redundant. They said, we're not going to need billboards anymore. So he struggled a lot with the situation, because at that point he had 3 kids and a wife to support. And he went to his father and asked him if he would help him to set him up in business. And he went straight away and got his life savings and handed them to him. £1,500, his life savings. Said, on you go, son. So my father did on he went, and he built up over the years with a lot of struggle and a lot of time. And he originally went out and build posting the posters himself, and went on to build a very, very successful outdoor advertising company. But my father said that his greatest joy was going back to my grandfather, when my grandfather was, I think, in his 80s, with a briefcase, and he'd worked out how much the money would be with interest, because he did pay him back his £1,500 eventually. But he took him, I think it was something like £30,000, and went in and said, there you go, Dad, that's it, with interest, which my grandfather promptly gave away to the rest of the family.
But investment then, money well spent then.
So that's just a wee bit about the history of the family. So it was a
working class parents,
blessed.
So your dad, who worked in a special unit, I've interviewed a couple.
My grandfather.
Your grandfather. I've interviewed a couple of the guys who were in the special unit, not working, but
you knew Jimmy Boyle well.
Joe Steele, Johnny Steele, who's a good friend of mine, was in the special unit, which was wild in there.
Quite an amazing place.
So the psychotherapy kind of things, over 30 years in industry, what made you get into that? So
from this very blessed, solid background, I decided that I was going to go to university, and I trained in psychology, but I had no desire to work in psychology. I wanted to be a music teacher. But by the time I left university, I absolutely didn't want to be a music teacher when I saw what was going on in my brother's schools, my 2 younger brothers. So I met the Handsome Prince.
It's not me, by the way.
And the Handsome Prince was an Englishman, and we got together. In those days, it didn't seem that young, but it was young. 22, we were married. And 9 months later, he ran off with another princess. So literally I had the big meringue wedding. The shame was enormous, because I was the first person in the history of generations of my family to bring the shame of divorce, to the family garden, to the party. So that left me in an awful mess. We'd literally months before moved into our marital home, and I was saddled with that. He literally disappeared. I didn't see him for 2 years. I didn't see him until the night before the divorce, and only because I asked someone to ask him if he would help me bury the body. That I needed it. I needed closure. So got divorced. Now, after he left, I fell into what the medical profession would call a depression. I would call it a broken heart. I don't think that depression's a particularly helpful term. It's a very vague expression. So this was specifically a state of brokenheartedness. And whilst I took the tablets, I took the antidepressants to help me get up and get dressed and get to work, I had a very forward-thinking GP who said, would you think it would be useful to talk to someone? You're very young, to experience this. So anyway, I did. I went to see a psychotherapist, Dr. Bob White, and worked with him over a fairly hefty period of time, and did a lot of emotional archaeology, during which time I unearthed a lot of heartbreak in my early life related to childhood sexual abuse, and I, over the course of subsequent psychotherapy, dealt with other issues that were there, and some of those issues were related to sexual assault as a young adult, and I had to deal with this abandonment issue from my husband in the bargain. So psychotherapy became the way to rebuild myself from the inside out for me. It was like rewiring me from the inside out. And as a result of that, I later decided that I wanted to train in therapy myself. I wanted to become a therapist because I knew what it had done for me. I really don't think I would be here today without it.
Yeah.
I really don't.
So psychotherapy, for people watching, what is psychotherapy?
So psychotherapy is a very, very broad expression that covers a huge continent. Fundamentally, it's where you apply theories of psychology in a therapeutic way. In other words, counselling, but from a specific psychological perspective. So it's much more interactive than maybe what some people would expect from counselling, where they think maybe you're just going to sit and listen and nod. That's not just what counselling is. But psychotherapy tends to take an approach, and there'll be a style, maybe an analytical style or a directive style. And the type that I had was quite analytical, and that meant that the therapist I had was very interested in, right from the very beginning, what was going on for you as a child, what made you the person you are that's led you to where you are now, and what is it we need to unpack and heal.
Is that to get to the root of the problem?
Getting to the root of the problem. So, and interestingly, my style of therapy today, I've coined a phrase very recently, in fact, that's peel it, feel it, and heal it. And it's like peeling back the layers of an onion to look at what's going on in there. Very similar to some of the approaches of the 12-step movements, where they in their 4-step they'll do the list of defects. It's looking at where's the patterns. Let's look at what's not working for you, what's not right, and is there a pattern in there? Well, you need to know your pattern, and you need to be able to identify it, and you need to heal it, and then you need to be aware of it today. How is that running my motor? Are you okay with that?
No, this is Ian the cat,
this
by
is
the
Ian
way.
The one-eyed cat.
Yeah. No, it's fine, man. Just get him his bit of attention.
Be
Say
saying
hello,
that
Ian.
if he digs his claws right
That's
into
fine.
you.
So that is the main. So because of the trauma you'd went through back in the past, the heartache, the heartbreak, did you do that to try and understand how you were feeling? And once you changed it, you realised that this works, and that's how you wanted to try and help others?
I think originally I did it to survive. I think there was a part of me that knew
suicidal?
Couldn't do it more. Absolutely. I didn't get as far as actually carrying anything out. I remember one night being in a bath that was cold and there was no hot water left, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was in my parents' house, and I was like, that's it, I really can't take it anymore. Thank goodness I couldn't find a big razor, because I remember that night thinking, I really can't take any more, I can't even turn my tap on and get a hot bath. That's how useless as a human being I am. So certainly I felt suicidal. And that was the point where, when support and help was mentioned, I knew I had to reach out, and I'd say that's the biggest thing that I learned, was to reach out and say, I can't do this alone. I can't fight the voices in my head anymore that are telling me it must be me.
Were you drinking or anything at the time?
I would use anything that I could get my hands on at that time, which thankfully for me, illegal drugs weren't immediately available. I'm sure I would have been on them if they had been, but that wasn't the circle that I moved in. But certainly I do remember, coming in at night with a bottle of wine in my handbag and kind of sneaking past, my mother would be in the kitchen because I'd moved back home at that point, and sneaking past to go upstairs and knowing that I didn't want to be open about it. I was 22 years of age, 23 years of age. I should be able to do whatever I wanted.
Still learning.
But knowing that it wasn't a social glass of wine, it was a medicinal glass of wine. I just needed something to calm my nerves and to calm me down and to give me a bit of pain relief. So I realised early on it wasn't a social thing, and it wasn't like I came in and said, let's have a glass of wine, let's sit down together and put that in the fridge. I knew there was a shame attached to it. So I used food, I used alcohol at times, I used relationships later on to numb some of this pain that was around, and thank God I was able to with the help of psychotherapy, with the help of analysis, to look at what the actual pains were inside that were driving some of these behaviours.
But this is what we've got. This is the beauty of life, because all that stuff, the suicidal thoughts, the potential alcoholic, if you never done all that shit, then you're not going to be sitting here. You're not going to have spoke to the thousands of people that you've spoke to help change their life, to help rewire their brain, to become understanding of their life and their faults. So it takes courage to change. And I put a post up yesterday, and listen, there's so many different theories with suicide, but from the area I'm from, there's a lot of people who turn to drugs, and I know people say it might be fun. Nobody turns out to be an addict, but if you've got trauma, if you've got pain, then those stuff will numb it for a certain extent, where that bit of fun will turn into misery and fun, and then by the end it'll just turn into misery. So for me, the drink, the drugs, everybody's got issues in this world. I don't care who you are. The Buddhas, the Dalai Lama, everybody's still got issues, but the drink, the drugs will give you the courage to push you over the edge, to make it will rip away at your soul where it comes to a stage where you think the only option is suicide. How do you feel about this rise in suicide and stuff now? What do you think, for your opinion, is the major shift for people really taking their life?
I think the world is in a pretty shaky state at the moment. You know, I think we've got some really serious big problems around. It's been a very interesting time to be on the planet for many of us, and I think you know, many people seem to be being called to, you know, come to the fore and help with the hopelessness that could win out if it wasn't challenged. So I think, you know, certainly changing roles, the world that we're living in here in the West, you know, which if we look at the figures for sleeping pills, for antidepressants, you know, the amount of clinical, biochemical interventions that are getting handed out on a daily basis just to help people make it through the night. So I think quite possibly the lack of training for many of us in developing our souls and developing a strength in the inside and getting an emotional backbone. You know, we've kind of been sold a message that it's all about, you know, how you look and what you've got and labels, what you can get, and all the externals, you know, the shopping mall and the supermarket and, you know, the holiday home, that these things are the things that make us and are going to make us wonderful and happy. And I think many people are realising that these things are not going to make us happy. It's how we are on the inside that makes the difference.
As if we've been getting fed a lie since we were born. What's right and what's wrong. Deep inside, I believe we know what's right. I believe everybody's got the answers. I believe you call it the onion as well, where you just wrap yourself around in so much shit, whether it's the fancy watch or the car. It's an illusion. It doesn't really mean shit. And listen, I've been watching a man called Sam Fankin, I think his name is, and he's talking about since social media has became so popular, I think they're saying 2 billion people are on social media. Since social media has been here for the last 10-15 years, there's been a 60% rise in suicide. So
I think anything that helps to isolate us is part of the problem. You know, anything that encourages to disconnect. You know, I think that in the 33 years that I've worked with people in the consulting room, and from my own life and my own experience, you know, I believe that we're here to relate. I believe we're here to love. Now, that doesn't mean we need to have a romantic relationship with everybody we meet, but that's why we're here. We're here to learn how to love, and we're here to learn how to love ourselves. And we need connection. You know, we need interaction with each other. We need to rub up against each other emotionally, physically and spiritually. And we need community. And that's one of the things that our culture's lost, or is losing, or it certainly is in great danger of losing in many areas, is community. And that's why I believe that for people to become suicidal, they need to begin to feel disconnected, alienated, isolated, terribly frightened and afraid to reach out, afraid to pick up the phone, afraid to say, I'm not okay. You know, look beneath the mask. You know, don't be fooled by the mask I wear. And I think that's part of it. I think that's what what will save us is our ability to come together as communities and to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to say, I'm not okay all the time. You know, I have problems, I have issues, and to be able to connect with each other without that need to be perfect, which was the subject of my TED talk, the curse of perfection, the curse of perfect. This world that we live in of, you know, TV and magazines that are telling us how we should be, how we should look, based on illusion, because these people don't even look like that or live like that. But we aspire to be like them. Nobody loves that world, but we think we should be doing it. We should be. And then, of course, you know, one of the biggest things is often people that do get it. They win the lottery. They get the financial rewards to live that life. That's one of the things that they say about it. It's the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, I think the people who win the lottery, there's a high percentage. I think it's like the people who win major in the lottery, the big ones, there's like 70% of them end up divorced.
It, so brings its own problems. You have to suddenly deal with envy. You have to deal with other people's greed. You have to deal with jealousy. You know, people who are going to resent you because it's all right for you. And of course, you can't have any problems anymore because you've got the money.
I've put as destination addicted to, what was it? Addicted to a new destination or something, where people think the grass is always greener on the other side. They think the new car, the new relationship, whatever it is going to fulfill them, but when they get it, they realise that it's not going to fulfill me because they still feel like shit.
Well, I certainly know from the consulting room that my clients come from all walks of life, and that includes the fabulous, gorgeous models, you know, who a lot of women would aspire to be like. I've seen it from the other side. And the wealthy millionaires and billionaires who've got it all, who are still saying, I'm not happy, I'm miserable, I'm depressed. So what we do know and we can conclude is that's not where it's at. But that's what we've been taught to think, that when I have X, Y or Z, then I'll be happy. And actually, it's an in and down job. It's not an out and up job.
It's difficult to get because a lot of people have got too much pride, including myself, and I've worked a lot to get to where I am today, but I still know I've got a lot of fucking work to do still, with insecurities, the jealousy, the anger. Still got a lot to work on, but I will not shy away from it. We spoke earlier, I'll identify with it, and I'll work daily to try and make the changes, because I believe people can change. I've spoke to many people who have changed. I speak to a lot of people who say they've changed, and I know deep inside that they're maybe lying, do you know what I mean? But I'll not say that, but anybody can change that, and no matter who you are, no matter what you've come from, no matter your past, no matter your age, if you believe in yourself, if you take the time, if you work on yourself daily, you can change your neural pathways, you can have a better life, you can have a better understanding. And I always say, knowledge is power. Educate yourself, read, learn, because I talk all the time. People always say, oh, listen. I try and listen as much as I can, but if I'm constantly talking, then I'm only going to repeat what I know. Everybody knows that everybody knows something that we don't. So if people are talking, then I'll learn more. So for me, it is another one is to listen. I love to talk. I love to give my opinion and advice. I feel as if I know everything, when really I'm learning from you, learning from Nick, learning from everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's
learning from Ian.
Learning from Ian here, just how to sit and be calm in front of the camera.
And it's an ongoing job, isn't it? I mean, number one, who would want to be with somebody that was perfect? Let's be honest. I wouldn't. I don't want to hang out with somebody that's perfect. You know, I think our perfection is in our imperfection, and is learning to enjoy, you know, the messiness of life. Is the fact that I'm messy, you're messy, the world is messy. It's all messy. It's designed to be messy. You know, there's up, down, in, out, summer, winter, good and bad. And if we get into judging it, we just say, look, I'm, and some days are going to be better than others. And when is it I most learn the art of unconditional love? Is not when I'm perfect and I'm doing everything right and I pat myself in the head. You know, the real test of unconditional love is when I really screw up, and I'm able to wrap my arms around myself and say, it's okay. Do you know, this world is quite a complicated place. And it's no mean feat to navigate it with your history and other people with their histories and all of it. It's not a simple thing to do. And you mentioned, you know, the Dalai Lama, the greats, the Mother Teresa's. You read their works and they'll tell you, you know, I am human too. I have my foibles. I maybe just have spent a lot more years and a lot more time on working on them and recognising them and being able to rein them in from time to time. But even they would tell you, you know, they haven't mastered it either. If you're here on this planet, you've probably not mastered everything. There's always something to learn.
There's always, every day you're going to be learning. And I believe the most testing times of your life, when you're in the fire, when you don't believe there's another way out, that's when you truly, truly find who you are and how capable you are. And there's sayings about it all the time, but everybody survived 100% of their worst days. People are a lot stronger than what they think. It's just to find that inner strength. And I can do amazing things. I can interview people, I can hit big numbers, I can do this. But again, that disappears. I've got to keep going, because I can hit a flat line for 2 or 3 days where I'll just sit in the house and you kind of doubt it all. I'll question everything. Why am I doing it? But you've just got to keep pushing through, man. And it's including yourself. You would have studied it all, but you would have had your down days where you felt fucked or you couldn't be asked. Do you know what I mean? Because you're taking a lot of people's energies. You're exchanging a lot of energies and listening to other people's stories, which is just all pain and constant. Do you know what I mean? So you're going to go home and go, that's tiring. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you know, pain's good for us. You know, I'm a great fan of John of the Cross, who coined the phrase the dark night of the soul. There's a lot of diamonds to be mined in the dark night. You know, the darkness is where we most easily see the light, and it's not easy being in the painful times. It's not easy being in the dark, but it is a huge part of our lives. And one of the things I think that causes us our greatest problems is the idea that one day we'll get to this, what I call the happy land plateau, and we'll never know pain again. We'll be sorted, we'll be fixed. No, forget that. Ditch it now and you'll find more happiness. You're always going to screw up. You're always going to make mistakes. And it's good for you because it teaches you humility. You know, it teaches you that you're not an angel, you're not a saint unless you are. And if you can accept that, but you do your best, you know, you do your best to say, I want to try and be the best person I can be today. But there will be days I won't achieve that. There'll be days where I'm giving people signals in the motorway that I wouldn't want to be shown on my Facebook page. And it's, if I can still love myself, right, it doesn't mean I don't say that's not acceptable behaviour. That wasn't a nice thing to do, really. And I don't like it when people do that to me, so it's not nice. Don't do that. I find myself doing it a week later. I don't get a big stick out and batter myself in the head. That's not going to help. What's going to help is recognising what is it about somebody cutting you off in the motorway that gets you that upset? What was it about that? And finding that wee vulnerable person inside, they win. They win. And I never win at anything. And I'm, you know, and the loser part of me, if I can find the wee child inside that feels like a loser, I don't need to give hand gestures on the motorway nearly as much. Yeah. So I could spend the time wasting my time beating myself up for doing the wrong thing, or I can explore in the darkness of it, the pain. What's up? What's really up? What's that really about? It's not about somebody cutting in front of you because they moved, you know, 2 seconds in front of you in the motorway.
See, to make those changes, Angela, people who get angry at certain things and these trigger points, it becomes just a norm for them that they don't even know they're doing it anymore. But if you can identify with it and try and stop it, which is difficult, but the more you do it, the more you can change the neural pathways, the more it will disappear. Yeah. Is that correct?
Well, you know, my wee thing about peel it, you know, feel it and heal it, peeling back the layers of the onion to what's really, wow, what's this about? You know, well, she did that to me, he did that to me, they did this to me. Okay, let's feel it. And how does that make you feel? You know, what's the feeling inside? Is it angry? Right, what's behind the anger? Now, 99% of the time, what's behind the anger is pain, is hurt. So it's peeling away till you find the hurt part, and then you show up for that hurt part today. If I look for my husband to do it, it'll be a temporary band-aid. If I look for my pals to do it over a coffee or a glass of wine, it'll be a temporary elastoplast. But if I can go in there, if I can dive into the darkness and say, where is this part that's hurting because of whatever the external event is? What is it? How far back is this going in me? If I can sit with that part of me and just love it, just breathe with it, just be there with her, just actually be present to the hurting place, the soft place inside. So this is where you get expressions like, your strength is in your vulnerability. What does that mean? It means sitting with yourself in the dark and saying, what's it really about? Go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. What's it really about? Where's the feeling? And if I can allow myself to really feel the feeling, like, I'm not good enough, or everybody else is better than me, or no one will ever love me, or if they really knew me, they wouldn't like me. Whatever that feeling is, if I can sit there today and just wrap my arms around that part and say, it's okay, I'm here, I love you, I've got you, it's all right, it's going to be okay.
Would you think, for anybody watching who's maybe struggling with stress or anxiety, what advice would you have for them just now?
That stress and anxiety is an absolutely normal part of life, and especially today in our culture with all that's going on. Of course, we've got things our parents and grandparents didn't have. We've got 24/7 on-the-spot news, bringing us disasters from all around the world in a way that people didn't have to deal with in the past in nearly the same way. So we're constantly getting fed all the disasters that are going on. It's not surprising that we're stressed and we're anxious, and we're going at 1,000 miles an hour. What I would say is stress can be a good thing. Stress can be a useful thing to a degree in certain ways. It's when we experience stress on an ongoing basis and we don't get a respite from it, or worse, we become addicted to the adrenaline. And that's what many of us are doing. We're actually getting that our systems are used to running at really, really fast, high levels, and we can't get off the gravy train. We just literally can't get off it. We're being fed by the stress. So we end up creating scenarios that keep us stressed to keep giving us the buzz of adrenaline. So we have to look at how we're going to downgrade and downsize our adrenaline levels. And the first thing is awareness, always naming it. Is this an acceptable, healthy, kind of up and down level of stress that I have? No, it's up there, full on, fifth gear, locked in syndrome. That's going to affect you not just mentally and emotionally, but physically.
The chronic
stress. It's going to affect your organs. It's going to affect your body. So you really need to take action. Of course, a lot of people are going to say, just take a tablet, take a this, take a that, take a glass of wine. And all of these things will work in the short term for a while, but inevitably they become addictive. So two things. One, you need to learn sustainable methods of coming down out of fifth gear and using fourth, third, second, first. And they'll be the classic things known to people. Meditation, yoga, relaxation, self-hypnosis, stress management. That's one thing. The other thing is looking at your life and saying, what are the hotspots? It's not enough just to put these things into place if all you're doing is allowing it to continue to drive at 1,000 miles an hour. Also looking at, and where am I putting myself? What am I investing in my life? And is it serving me? Is it working for me? And sometimes in life we have to say, this ain't working for me anymore, I need to change things. And we need to be willing to do that.
Though the change is the difficult part. I've been doing a lot of research the last few weeks on trauma bonding. Is it Stockholm Syndrome? So bank robbers, I believe, robbed a bank in Sweden, took the hostages, but the hostages started falling in love with them because when they weren't getting killed, they was releasing serotonin, endorphins, where they were starting to grow feelings for them, feel sorry for them, show empathy. And that is a true thing called Stockholm Syndrome, where trauma bonding is for people that's in abusive relationships, maybe getting beat up. Even, listen, this just happens with girls, this also happens with boys, who are mentally getting tortured, but they're so attracted with the adrenaline rush and the mood swings that will send them so high, where there's so much hatred towards them, but the day they're nice, they start feeling empathy, sympathy, they love me more, and then you start getting that connection, even though you know it's wrong. I don't know, I've just butchered that there, but I'm just trying to understand
you're on
it,
a track.
kind of try to study it to get it, because it kind of makes sense because anybody can walk out the door in relationships they don't like, has certain jobs, but there's something there that keeps them there. So can you elaborate on
so
trauma
how
bonding?
we get hooked?
Yeah.
You know, we get hooked to chemicals, and we have biochemicals in our brain. You've got a Boots the chemist in here. So we get hooked on things that are not good for us, on substances that aren't good for us, and on people who aren't good for us, but create substances on which we can learn, we can become addicted to. So becoming addicted to drama, becoming addicted to chaos. Even though you would say, I don't want to be like this. You know, why am I always making myself late? Why am I never organised? Why am I... But there's a payoff somewhere. And even if that payoff is the biochemistry of you like the adrenaline, you like the buzz, it gives you a buzz, you get something out of it. Some people will say the one thing that they could, you know, like, it was a great guy called Anthony DeMello, wrote one of the best, but I think one of my favourite books in the world. It's a wee book. It's called Awareness. He's dead now. No, he doesn't like you doing that. He'll scratch you. He will scratch you. I'm not kidding you on. So Anthony DeMello's book Awareness, when he says, I can tell you the secret to happiness and bliss. I can tell you what it is, but you're not wanting to hear it. You're not like it. Because what you call happiness is excitement. Real happiness at the moment, most people would call it boring. Real happiness, they would find boring. They would say, is this it? What now? What's next? What's happening? Because they're not at that altitude. They would find that altitude boring. So what they call happiness is really excitement. Feeling thrilled. And the thing is that thrill is very addictive.
Sorry, Angela, is that why a lot of people who's maybe in relationships, they start off in relationships with really good people, treat them fucking really well, they could do everything for them, make them happy, but then everybody shouts to what a good guy, to what a good girl. Sometimes you get it, but it just doesn't feel, you've not got that excitement, even though you know they're good people, but you prefer that thrill because they say if you meet someone, you've got the butterflies, the knees are going weak, you're feeling excited. They say that's a psychologist that say that's not what you should be looking for. When you meet someone and you're calm, that's where there's a more mental connection, and you're in tune with each other.
There's something deeper. I mean, nature's designed us really well in that we have these honeymoon periods that we do fall in love. Of course, it's got very little to do with love, because love isn't a feeling. Love is a verb, you know. Love is an action. Love is something you do. You get up in the morning and you say, I'm going to love today. I'm going to be loved today. But our culture has told us about a thing called romance, which is really just thrill and excitement, and that is very much based on new and feeding my ego, you know, so focusing all of your attention on me and telling me how wonderful I am. And of course, that's very seductive. And it's very clever, because nature does this so that we fall in love and we procreate and we keep the species going. So it's quite a good thing from an evolutionary point of view that it happens. But the thing is, we can't sustain that over time. Now, we can learn practices to help us to sustain it more than maybe we would naturally do. We get a bit lazy and flabby in relationships. You meet, you fall in love, it's great for a while, and then you get a bit cavalier, you get a bit lazy, and you stop doing the things. One of the first things we would do in couples therapy is ask the question, what did you do early in your relationship that you're not doing now? You know, what were some of the things that you did for each other and you said, or you wouldn't ever have dreamt of doing? Begin to bring those things back You know, now you can't necessarily live at that altitude with, 2 dogs and 3 kids and both working full time, where you're just constantly making each other number one 24/7. But you can bring some of the things back, like the way you speak to each other. That would you speak that way if you were in the supermarket queue? Would you speak that way if there was a live video cam in your living room watching you having this discussion? No, you wouldn't if you thought anybody was watching. So why are you doing it? So bringing back some of those things that we did in the beginning, even though we can't do all of them all of the time, because it is quite a selfish time when a relationship's early on. People will spend as much time as they can together. They'll make each other number one priority. They'll ditch their pals. And then life kind of creeps back in again. But it's how can you keep just some of those things going? And also, how can you deepen your love so that your love becomes more mature? And it's about doing love, practicing love, supporting each other, encouraging each other to be the best they can be, rather than this childish, egotistical, feed me, tell me how great I am, tell me how wonderful I am. And often that comes from a place where we're very empty inside. Certainly it was for me, when I think back, over many relationships that were not healthy in my early years, about my own lack of self-worth, my own lack of self-esteem from some of the traumas that I'd experienced in my own life.
See, some people who come in for couples therapy, was there ever a time you thought, well, it's good that they're trying to work on each other, but was there ever a time you says, look, the two of you are great, it's good that you are trying, but there's just something not there where it's best if you part ways?
I would never say that to a couple. I would try and support a couple to recognise that really, is. Having said that, the fact that they're there, unless somebody's really selling out and doesn't want to be there, that would be for me telling me that they both on some level did want the relationship to work. Now, whether they were willing and able to make the sacrifices and the changes that would allow it to work. But I've seen marriages that anyone else would call a car crash, relationships that many people would call a complete car crash, and you can never come back from that. He's done this or she's done that. If two people are both committed to the bigger picture, and that is the relationship. So for many of us, we don't see that part. We see it as just him and her, rather than there's a third party there, and that is the relationship. And of course, for many people, there's kids involved. So there's a family. It's not just about him and her.
Just them.
If they are willing to commit for the greater good of the relationship or the family, I've seen people come out of huge car crash relationships and begin to learn some of the tools that sadly aren't taught in school where they should be.
To learn that we're all going to make mistakes. So for me, if I meet someone, trust is everything for me. So if somebody breaks my trust, it's done. I can't forgive. What is that then? What is that blockage?
Do you trust yourself?
I don't think so.
Right. So there's the place we start all the time. Is whatever I would see about them, I need that from them. Do I do it? So, people come to me and they'll tell me about, for example, I've been betrayed. We've all been through it. You've been betrayed, I've been betrayed. It's part of life. And they've let me down, and then they kind of sit on the pity pot. And I'm not saying that we wouldn't allow people to express how hurt and, sore they're feeling. But there is a point when we need to start to own up to betrayal isn't something that's exclusive to them out there. Yeah. Who have I betrayed? Have I betrayed anybody? Do you know? And none of us want to answer that. We're all like,
yeah, everybody has.
Oh, I'm sure I probably have. But I can't really think. And it's like, well, take the stick out your own eye. It starts with me. So where there's an issue like that, and I say one of my issues is trust, I need to work on becoming the trustworthy person. So it's like becoming the person I want to find. So one of the exercises I'll sometimes do, I've done myself and I did, but certainly I would do with people who are saying, I want to be in a relationship. I say, make me a list of your ideal, your ideal partner. I don't tell them why. Bring it back next time. Everything. How you want them to be, how you want them to act, how you want them to feel about you, how they want the kind of things that the traits they would have. As many sentences as you can come up with, describe this ideal partner to me, and they come back with this Bible list, pictures. Perfect skin, perfect teeth, perfect everything. And then we say, okay, now go through the list and evaluate yourself on, highlight how many of them have you got. And you just see them like crumple, like, oh, shit.
Is that what like attracts like, though?
Well, it's like we begin to realise that we've got this expectation of this person out there that doesn't exist. But I'm not showing up to the party and saying I've got any of these qualities.
Is that a reflection of you and maybe how you should be then?
It's what we're looking for out there, what we haven't actually got ourselves. Or I believe we have got it. I believe everybody's got a huge big diamond inside of them, but you've got to get to it. And one of the ways to get to that is the peeling, is getting over the crust of pain, hurt, shame, loss, the griefs that we haven't really grieved properly. Our culture isn't very good at dealing with loss and grief.
For loss, because we'll touch on your book, Love Never Dies, and you speak about your dad quite a lot in this book, who sadly passed away to cancer. How do we deal with grief? I've lost countless people, and I still don't think I've came to terms with any of it. I always say I have, and I'll do meditation, yoga, but there's something still rooted in there where I go, I ain't grieved properly yet, because I'll cry a lot. I'm a fucking grieter, do you know what I mean? I'll cry a lot. But
that's great.
How do we deal with grief? How would you deal with grief? What advice would you give for people who's lost a loved one? Because I know people who's lost someone 20, 30 years ago who are still kind of angry and bitter and grieving. So,
well, I suppose the big thing is how it's affecting you. So, like sometimes I'll say, if you were given a sentence in prison of 6 weeks or 6 years, which is the one that would cause the most pain?
6 years.
Yeah. So grief's a bit like that. Grief's a bit like prison. If I haven't seen my father for 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years, or 3 decades, which is the longest sentence, so we can miss people more over time because it's so long since I've seen you. It's so long since we've done things together. Now, the system's set up really well in that when we have a loss, we get into shock. But that shock can take weeks, months, or years to wear off. So sometimes we move into what Freud called denial, where it's just like, my dad's still up the road. He's really still up the road in Ochterarder playing golf. And I'll see him next Sunday. So and my granny, she's still up in a wee single end flat in Partick in Kennoway Drive, and she's making scones, and I'll be up there in a minute. So there's almost like there's a part of us that sometimes just can't handle it, and that's a very good protective defence mechanism initially, because we need that shock to help us to not completely fall apart, to deal with what needs dealt with, the funeral, the making the arrangements, dealing with things, supporting each other. And then over time, eventually it begins to kind of seep in a bit that they're not coming. So it's a very, very protective defence mechanism. It's very worthwhile and useful. What about grief? I think in our culture, because we're so much, we're often very much externalised into everything's fine, I'm good, how are you? I'm fine, good, great, everybody's fine, everybody's doing great, everybody's doing well, nobody's got any problems, we don't cry, big boys don't cry, especially not in Glasgow. And we have this externalised thing, and of course we've bought a lot of these kind of have a nice day stuff. We've imported a lot of that, that everything's about being strong and tough and and it's phony. We know it's phony and we know it's false, but somehow we're looking around and everyone else is doing it, and we think, well, I need to do that too, and we need to pretend. And we make less and less room in our culture and our world for vulnerability, for falling, for failing, if such a thing exists, and it's not just living. So we deem certain traits acceptable and other ones not acceptable. And one of those things that we don't really accept is grief. So I'll see clients that will come to me, and I certainly experienced it myself. You should be over that now. You should be past that stage. What stage? What stage? Who says you shouldn't grieve for someone that you lost 20 years ago? Because today something has touched you and touched the hurting place, and you feel a pocket of loss or grief for that person. Who says you shouldn't express that or experience that? Who says that should have happened 20 years ago?
Yeah,
where is that written?
Time limit to say
there is no time limit on grief. There is none. Now, do I think, that you should be, you should die with them? No, that's quite different. So there's doing the work of grieving. And doing the work of grieving is one of the things that our culture does is it denies death, because we all want to look 21. Yeah. I was 60.
She just says it.
Last week, and I was laughing with you and saying I want to get the Tipp-Ex out and write 50. But in truth, of course, part of me does. But there's another part of me doesn't, because I know that we live in a death-denying culture and it's not good for us, because it's one of the things that makes life so special is, you don't know if you've got tomorrow, so live for today and enjoy it.
It's scary to think as soon as you're born, you start to die. And that's one of the things that pushes me out my bed, because I know I want to leave a legacy. I want to do things that nobody could even fucking dream of, and I want to show people, no matter where you're from, this is possible.
You don't have time to waste.
I ain't got time to be lying about in my bed and feeling sorry for myself, but I still do it. I will recharge, and we spoke about it earlier. I had 4 podcasts in the space of 24 hours last week, and you come home and I'm flat 4 or 5 days. It's draining, but I need to get up again and fight and push on, because I've heard a lot of motivational speakers speak about it. That should be your only inspiration and motivation, is to wake up and realise you're going to die. Yeah. You're going to fucking die.
And there's a kind of myth in our culture that it'll be when you're 93, and you're sitting in your rocking chair. I don't know that it's not going to be next Tuesday. I don't know that it's not going to be tonight. And having had a personal experience with breast cancer, and having, my father would have said that he was very blessed, and he said himself, I'm having a good death. He was 83. I held his hand as he was dying. I was there when he stopped breathing, and that's what he did. He just stopped breathing. I was talking to him and singing to him seconds before he stopped breathing. Does that mean I didn't grieve him? No, absolutely not. It didn't mean I didn't grieve him and I didn't miss him. But it did certainly help me, because it helped me to face up to the reality of death. It's as simple as that. 1 minute you're breathing, the next minute you're not. And when we are around people who have died or we've lost people, it's a beautiful reminder that this is pure gift. That next breath, that's not a given.
What do you think of death?
I don't believe in it. And of course I believe in it, all at the same time. So I believe that we are eternal. I believe there's a part of us that is eternal. Energies. I believe we have a soul, whatever different cultures want to call that. But they all have words for it. All the different traditions have different words for this thing that I would call soul, the spiritual part of us, that is a part of what others would call the higher power, God, Maya, Gaia, Allah, the Buddha, whatever you want to call it. They all have different names for it, but there's this eternal, timeless level of existence, of consciousness, that I believe we all have a spark of, and we're all part of that big light. And I believe that we go home to wherever we came from. Where does the tomato seed come from?
Do you ever read a book called Many Lives, Many Masters?
Yes, Brian Weiss.
Yeah, Margaret Solis told me to read that book, and it kind of makes sense to tell you that the shit and problems that you've got in this life, if you don't kind of sort it and face it, you get into your next life with the same problems, but they add an extra one on.
Well, I'd go even further than that and say that, if you don't sort the problems out in this life, they just come back and hit you in the face till you do. You just keep coming up against the same patterns until you actually find the way through. You know, it's like snakes and ladders. Did I live before? Will I live again? I don't know, I'm not dead yet. But most of the world's population believe in reincarnation. So, you know, I'm open.
Your book, Love Never Dies, I've read it over the last couple of days. You speak about your dad quite a lot in this book.
Yeah,
Patrick. Why is that?
Because I loved him dearly and I missed him. And I wrote I wrote some bloggy pieces about how I was feeling that people responded to on Facebook and said, you know, I find that really helpful. I lost my dad last year. I lost my mum 2 years ago. Do you have any more? And I was like, I'm only doing this because it's making me feel better to write about how I'm feeling. I have always known the value in my retreats and my workshops of externalising through the spoken word or the written word, and getting things out. So I saw no reason not to do it myself when I was going through my own grief and my own loss. He had pancreatic cancer. He had 6 months when he was diagnosed, and I actively moved right in with wanting to accompany him on that journey. And he also meditated, and we spoke openly about his death and about dying and about his life and his regrets and, you know, the spiritual journey and what he believed. And it really felt like a great privilege, and I felt I had so many what I would have called spiritual experiences, synchronicities, coincidences, beautiful times. And then he died, and there was the process of what now after death. And I discovered that I was having a totally different relationship with him, even though his physical material ego self had died, with a bigger picture that was communicating with me in very comforting ways.
Do you think your bond got stronger then?
I think the bond certainly got stronger after death. Yeah.
You speak about, because I know your dad phoned you in the book, not give too much away, but your dad called you a month before he was diagnosed to light a candle for him, but you knew, and your gut feeling.
We were in Edinburgh, and he asked us if we would go across we were going to a show that night. He was there with his partner, my husband Graham, and I. When he walked into the reception of the hotel, I looked at him, and I don't know how I knew, but I said to my husband up the stairs, I think my dad's dying. There's something not right. And he said, don't be silly, he's tired. He's an old man, he's tired. He said, a long journey. But that same night he said, would we go to St Mary's Cathedral in Edinburgh, across the road from the hotel, and light a wee candle with him and meditate. Now, the three of us have all meditated for years. My dad introduced me to meditation. And I said, oh Dad, we've just arrived, we're busy, we want to get changed for the show. And about 20 minutes later, they phoned the room and said, I'm going across the now. He's wanting to come. And I said to my husband, we need to go right now. And as I sat in the wee church with the candles lit, I knew right away that I didn't know, I hadn't been diagnosed yet. I just knew that this was a pivotal moment, and St Mary's Church became a really important place of things happening in the following years, and still is, But that moment was the moment where something in me knew, here we go. This is it. This is the beginning of the next big thing that's going to happen in your life, and enjoy every moment, because he's not going to be with you long. I didn't know at that time why or what. And it was within a matter of weeks that he had his diagnosis, that he had 6 months to go. So
your intuition and that, you'll be very in tune because you do Reiki and stuff as well?
Everybody is in tune. If they quieten down the externals, everybody has intuition. Everybody has an inner teacher. So this isn't about me saying I'm some kind of special person with a special gift. This is, for me, it's about, the book was partly about trying to say to people, you have this. We all have this ability to tune in to another level of being. And it's not just some special people who often charge a lot of money.
It's a great book, by the way, and very well written, and you can tell it's raw, because it brought a lot of emotions back with myself and my own dad, where you think, because I felt like a failure for a long time, and my dad's not really, he never got to see my success and what I'm doing now, because he kind of always believed it. Well, obviously I've got my mum, my sister, my kids, But there's always something at thinking, because my dad used to always say, get your shit together, you've got a lot more to give. And I never believed him. He always believed in me. And when I was reading that, it kind of brings back a lot of emotions, because he never got to say the great side of me that he always believed that I could have been. Nah.
Not in the physical realm.
Not in the physical, yeah. But, and it brings back a lot of emotions as well. You speak about drowning and your dad saved you. What was that story?
When I was 5.
Yeah.
We were away for the day in Millport, which is full of shelves, and my father had his tweed trousers rolled up to the knees, and he was lighting his pipe on the beach, and I'd followed my Uncle Hugh out, and of course Hugh had come off a ledge and started swimming, but I thought he was still walking out, and of course he didn't know I was behind him. They were all busy, and I went right off the ledge and right down, and I was sparked, I was dead, I was gone. I remember time stopping, I remember the whole thing in slow motion, and then I was out, and my father just saw my head going down. Never heard the end of it, but his good tweed trousers, and he saved me. Had he not looked out round when he did, I wouldn't be here, and got me out and tipped me upside down, and did the mouth to mouth heart stuff and brought me back round. I brought up my guts. So yes, without a shadow of a doubt, he saved my life at the age of 5.
Scary that,
Yeah.
You're very big, you speak a lot about dreams as well. You're very big on dreams and when you're sleeping, what you're thinking about. Why is that also?
Well, it's just another realm of our consciousness, of our being, and I think we're probably in many ways closer to who we really are in that state, because when we're awake, we're very much ego-based, like, again, this external, who I think the world wants me to be, who I think I should be, that there's a much more vulnerable part of us that gets an opportunity to communicate, and I think we can communicate on many levels. So I have had dreams when my father's come in, but they're not that often. I did have one not that long ago, but they're not that often. But when they happen, they're beautiful. It's like, oh, he was in my dream last night. Wow, he was here. And you say about your dad not seeing you turning your life around, how do you know your father wasn't directly right behind you,
No.
guiding you from the other side in a way that he couldn't do in the physical world. And believe me, he sees everything you're doing.
I know some people don't agree with him, but I've been to many spiritualists and they always say when I get in a room, I've got so many people guiding me.
Yeah.
So
Wayne Dyer, the writer, the American kind of coach, teacher, used to say, if you knew who walked beside you, you would never know fear again. And that stayed with me. That made the hairs in the back of my neck stand up. Just if you knew who walks beside you, you would never know fear again. So how do we not know? How do we know that our loved ones, without their physical overcoats, aren't guiding us, aren't teaching us, aren't speaking to us intuitively to say, do this, do that, don't do that. And how often do we ignore it? When you had the hunch, don't do that, don't listen to him, don't trust her, don't, they're not good. And we, oh no, and our ego talks us into, and then later on we go, I knew that. I knew I shouldn't have get involved with him, her, it, that. I knew that wasn't me. I knew that wasn't the right path. But I betrayed myself.
That's a lesson, isn't it? That's a
it's
lesson
growing.
where you've got to learn from your mistakes. And everything's a process, I believe. And every mistake that we make, I try and, why did I do it? I'm trying to figure out the people that's coming into my life, and always say it, like attracts like, and I believe the higher frequency you become, you attract those frequencies into your life, but you always need those curveballs. Yeah,
and if we can remember that it is an earth school, that's why we're here. We're here to, excuse me, develop ourselves, to grow. And how do we do that? Well, we need lessons, as you said, life lessons.
So when you started the Harvest Clinic, which in my opinion is one of the biggest clinics in Scotland, it's amazing what he's doing there, from Reiki, massages, the psychological side of things. It's all natural. You've got so many different courses that people can get involved in as well. What was your goal then when you started the Harvest Clinic?
Never had one. Never had one. It all unfolded. It just all bit by bit unfolded. Originally, I just knew that I wanted to train in therapy because I knew how much it had helped me. I had no clue how I was going to do that. I started off working for nothing, volunteering, and I remember doing talks on, as I trained as a clinical hypnotherapist originally, and I remember doing talks on self-hypnosis. My granny would be there, my grandpa would be there, some nights my mother and father would be there, and they would alternate it because it was a free introductory talk, and sometimes one person turned up, and I would go through my spiel. So I was thinking, how can this ever evolve into anything? I never had any sense that it was going to grow into anything worth anything. I thought, I'm going to be back in work in no time. So originally I was still working in my daytime job, and doing this on the side, evenings and weekends, these talks and wee free lectures and volunteering, and then eventually 2 people or 3 people turned up, and then eventually, and I was ready to throw the towel in. My first training was a bit ropey, and my father went down to, another coincidence, went down to Champneys Health Spa in Tring with his pals. He was a great runner, and they went away for a kind of training weekend, and he met this hypnotherapist in London, Michael Joseph. And he said, oh, my daughter does what you do. It turned out we trained at the same school. And he said, oh, I found the training a bit patchy. And he said, she's really struggling. She's not sure how to get a foothold. And he said, oh, tell her if she's ever down in London to come and see me. So, lesson, ding, for anybody listening. When life throws you an opportunity, not a curveball, an opportunity, grab it with both hands. So when he came back and said, and this guy, he's really successful. He's working at Champneys and Tring with the celebrities and Ruby Wax and Stephen Fry, and they're all going to see him. He said, if you're ever in London, so I'm on to the bus station to book my overnight bus ticket that night, because I'm going to London and I'm going to kid on. I'm just passing by, and I went to see Michael, and he spent a whole afternoon talking to me about what I knew, what I didn't know, and invited me to come and be part of his first training course as a supervisor, because I had a degree in psychology and I'd already done a training, patchy as it was. So I went along, and I travelled up and down to London in the days before Ryanair and cheap flights. I travelled up and down to London on my weekends, working full-time during the week, just to soak up the knowledge and this gift, this opportunity that might have passed me by, and it changed my life. So I supported him on his first training, and then I said, could we why is all the good training in London? Could we bring this up to Glasgow? And he said, well, you set it up and I'll come up. And he came up, and then he eased his way out and said, right, go for it, on you go, you do it. And I did that. I've still been doing it. That's 30 odd years now.
Congratulations.
Mind you, he passed 6 months after my father, so it was a kind of double loss, losing one, my father, and then losing the guy who had been really my mentor in the early stages of my career.
So you opened Harvest Clinic, but the biggest fight in your life is when you go to Big C. Which is cancer. That was a fairly big fight. Was it the biggest one? I dare say you don't scale these things. They're just they're challenges. So yes, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Check your breast, girls. My friend who lost her mother to cancer noticed when we were away on holiday and we were topless sunbathing, and she said, you've got an indent. I didn't even know what an indent was. I knew I had no lumps, but I didn't know about indents. And I had an indent and had not in any way related that. So she said, get that checked when you go back. By coincidence, there's that word again, by coincidence, there was a letter for my regular mammogram when I came back, and I thought, oh, strike two. And our teacher in tuition says, here we go. And went along, and they said, need to check it out, and the rest was history. So I had a mastectomy, had chemotherapy, didn't know right away I would need it all, but then needed chemotherapy, and then needed radiotherapy treatment after that, which finished last November, mid-November. So it was a year of pretty intensive healing and recovery.
and another journey into love, and this time being completely receiving, because I couldn't offer much to anybody. So I was on the receiving end of all the love and support that was around from family and friends and colleagues.
Which is a good thing, because for over 30 years you've also helped others change and make their belief system stronger and show them love. Was it difficult for someone who's working in your job to go and speak to someone because we can speak all the time, but it's hard to put into practice what we speak because we're helping so many people? Is there anyone you can go and speak to? Do you feel, I need to get this off?
Yeah, I have a spiritual director. I have someone who I speak to deeply about my heart. I'm very lucky in that my husband's a psychotherapist too, so I'm very, very lucky and blessed that I can share a lot with him. But there's a lot that you can, when you're in a marriage, you can't just expect the other person to take the load for absolutely everything. You can't lean on them to they're exhausted. So I realised that there were things that I needed to be able to speak about that perhaps was expecting a lot of him to take everything on board. So, I very much use my spiritual director, who's she's a I don't want to give anything away who she is. I'll give her an anonymity, but she's a nun in an enclosed order who has the wisdom of the sages, and I trust her implicitly. So that's my safe place, and that's my safe space at this point in my career. But most of my life I've had a supervisor for my work, because in the work that I do, we really should be checking out that we're not taking our own stuff into the consulting room. So, I have had a clinical supervisor, and that would be somebody that I would be able to go and speak to.
So how was it then the first time you get told that you had cancer mentally? How was it? Did you think to yourself?
By the time it happened, I think I kind of knew it was coming. I'd gone through it with my mum 10 years ago. My mum's fully recovered and an amazing 83-year-old. But when it happened, it doesn't just happen overnight. You go for the mammogram and then you get called back. So something might not be right. And then when the woman wearing the nice sort of Laura Ashley clothes comes down and says, "Do you want to come with me?" you realise that she's not wearing a nurse's outfit. So what does she want to talk to me about? And then they very gently, they're brilliant, these people are brilliant, they're amazing. They very, very gently, and they deliver things in droplets, so you get time to take things in. The irony was when the doctor actually told me that, yes, that they believed it was a tumour and that there would need to be treatment for it. Although they don't tell you at that stage what it is, because they don't truly know. That session ended with me comforting her. She was in tears, and I was telling her it was okay, she was all right, that she'd done a great job, and that she was very good at her job. I just can't believe you're taking it so well. So I had a great empathy and understanding for how difficult her job was, and all of the people who were involved in my treatment, how difficult it was for all of them, the nurses, and just what an amazing job they do. They're doing that all day, every day.
Yeah, I don't think nurses and people like that get the credit they deserve. Even my mum's a home help as well. She works for Corda, and the work that these women and men do, cleaning up shit and blood every day,
Saints.
And they're getting paid buttons. It's phenomenal, and they should get the respect, because if it went for these people, man, there'd be dead bodies everywhere.
No, I call them the ordinary angels. They're in our midst all the time, and our culture just doesn't value them nearly enough.
Do you think your job, with what you understand with the brain and the mindset and the belief system, helped you through your cancer as well?
I think without a shadow of a doubt, the things that I had learned, I've worked with cancer patients for many years, all of that came back to me. All of that was useful and helpful. And what I've tried to do in the book that I'm currently writing, which is called Greet, Pray, Love, which is a wee play on the book Eat, Pray, Love, but it's dancing with the chancer. Because, there's one thing right away. I didn't call it cancer, I called it the chancer. And people would say, "Oh, is that because it's like a wee horrible wee thing, it's a wee chancer?" And I would say, no, I could have had a heart attack. I could have had a stroke. I could have had an aneurysm or an embolism. And boom, you're gone. I've got another chance. So you get a chance with cancer. Now, it might be you just get the chance to write your will. You just get the chance, like my father did, to put everything in order and to spend time, real quality time, with the people that he loved, to make sure everyone knew that he loved them, and for him to receive all the love that he said later he didn't realise how much he was loved, or by how many. I have a box up the stairs with cards like that thick. And I remember my husband saying to me, it must be marvellous to get all of that while you're still alive. People, and they weren't just writing love from Mary, they were writing, Angela, I want to tell you what you mean to me, and you won't remember, but see that day that you, and I'm like, I don't even remember that. He said, you're having a living funeral. You're actually getting all the wonderful things that you would want people to say to you. And people who I knew, by the way, some of them, it was get it off their chest quick in case I did die, because some of them had been real shits and done the dirty, but I knew it was tantamount to an apology. You know, they didn't always get as far as apologising, but people were kind of crawling out the woodwork. And even that was lovely, because I was able to say, in my heart of hearts, I don't hold any resentment now. What you did wasn't very nice. I didn't like it at the time, but hey, I'm moving into forgiveness.
Because that's where you realise that life is too short. And it says rest in peace when people die, but they also say we should live in peace.
Oh, totally.
You know
so
you
to let things go, you to put things down. And I think the biggest lesson for me was just in, you know, why don't we tell each other these things while we're alive? Why do we wait till hear somebody might be dying or has died? So this box of cards to me is more than a box of cards. It's a reminder to me to keep letting the people, you know, shower the people you love with love, and come from love as much as you feasibly can. You're human, you'll get it wrong. But oh, you know, what a shame if I hadn't got to read any of those cards. They'd been sent to Graham after I'd gone. I remember the day. She was always such and such to me. She was an amazing woman. I actually got to read all that stuff. My job was to try and take it in. That was hard. Trying to keep breathing in that, you know, these people that were saying, I love you. They were all telling different stories, but they were all saying, I love you. And all it was doing was making me feel more love. So, when I'm writing the Great Pray Love pages for the next book that I'm doing, it's very much focused on these chronic illnesses and these cancers, chancers that we get, these situations. They're all opportunities if we allow them to be. You can see it as a destructive illness, or you can see it as, hey, I'm still here and I've got another chance. I've still got the chance to tell people I love them. Because a lot of people didn't waken up this morning,
definitely.
And I'm still here.
Do you think it's gave you a wee kick up the arse as well?
Totally.
Where you think, all right, wait a minute,
it's too short.
I've still got a lot of work to do and a lot more to do. But
you question everything.
Yeah.
You question everything you're involved in and say. Now, I don't think everything in life is got to bring you joy, but if there are ongoing things that are bringing you pain and discomfort, it might behoove you to explore them and say, do I really want this to be a major part of my life? Not that I don't think suffering's useful. Suffering is very useful and we learn a lot from it, but it does make you kind of do the life review and say, right, how do I want my life to be for whatever time I've got left? And I'm hoping that's going to be a long, healing, healthy life.
Years, yeah.
But what do I want it to be about? And as you said yourself, right, why am I still here? I made it, other guys didn't. I'm still here. Well, what is it I'm here to do? How can I love more? How can I share more? And how can I help other people to love themselves better and love other people more? And
I always say, as long as you've got air in your lungs, you've always got something to give. No matter where you are, what you're doing, you've always got something to give. And everything's a process of learning from, whether it's cancer, whether it's losing a loved one. What is the answers I can get from that? A lot of people look for problems, but we should really be looking for the solutions. And everything that's, whether it's cancer that you've had, or it's definitely gives you a kick up the arse. You go, wait a minute, I've still got a lot to give, I've still got a lot to do, a lot to change, but you can learn from it, grow from it. How was it then from that process going through your chemo, did you ring the bell?
Yes, I rang 2 bells. Not just one,
Show
but
off.
2. Always go for extra. So I got to ring a bell after chemotherapy finished.
Is that emotional that day?
Oh, well, my family turned up. My family were there, and we went for lunch after it. And then the second time was after my radiotherapy finished, and my husband was there, and I knew he'd taken me, but I didn't know my stepson David was going to be there, because it was a working day, and I thought, I've done it. I did it after chemotherapy, so don't milk it. And it was really lovely. And when I came out, we got out into the hall, and my husband got down on one knee and gave me a beautiful ring, which is the ring that I'm wearing. I'm wearing it, which was a very important design. It's actually a silver cast of a barnacle, which for
What's
me,
a barnacle?
A barnacle's it's a wee mollusk that clings to piers. It's what you would see clinging to piers. And I was talking about the tenacity of the barnacles. You can't get them off. You can't get them off at all. Such tenacity. And when I saw the ring, I said, that's really gorgeous. That's just a cast of this artist only does shells, and she casts them in silver. And he got me the ring, and he for that day he got down and said lovely things to me. But what was lovely was my stepson caught it on camera, and that's why he'd come along, and that was marking the end of it. For me also, it kind of reminded me of the cancer itself and the gift of cancer, because there are gifts in all of these horrible things that happen to us that we would say, I wish I hadn't had that, I wish that didn't have to happen to anybody. But I think life is about being able to see the light in the darkness.
Definitely. And that's a good thing. And it's the thing that you're trying to take positives from it. As much as it makes you appreciate life, it also makes people who are surrounded by you, surrounded around you, appreciate you. Because would you have done that if you never had cancer? Would your stepkids and grandkids start loving you more and go, wait a minute, they could go any time? It starts making people appreciate you for what you do and what you've become and who you help, and we take that for granted. We take it for granted.
These things are, anything that's close to death is a wake-up call. And even if it's just somebody cuts out in front of you in the motorway and you have to slam the brakes on, you get that, it's that realisation that could have been it. It's as simple as that. That could have been it. So, do I want to go to sleep on an argument? Is this worth fighting about? Do I need to score points? Does it matter if you've got the control for the telly? Usually the answer to that is yes, very much so. There are some things that are non-negotiable, but we can spend so much of our lives embroiled in trivia and things that really don't matter. Power plays.
So what is that then? Is that the ego?
It's the child,
What is the ego then?
So the ego is the externalised part of us in the world, that our sense of self. So
who we think we should be, or who we are.
So Jung, well, who society's also taught us to be. Jung talked about the false self and the true self, and the false self is the ego, is the part of us. So we the first half of life is the part of our lives. It's not necessarily literally, mathematically, the half of our life where we build up who we are in the world, who I want you to see me to be, who is Angela, the great Angela Trainer, and the masks that I wear. So I am my job. I am a hypnotherapist. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm the Harvest Clinic. I am the great I am. Second half of life should be about letting go. Should be about learning to let go of these masks and costumes, and the need for me to impress you, the need for me to acquire, to achieve. So that first half of life is about building up. We want to get a partner, we want to get home, we want to get the job, we want, all the things we want to get, they're all externals. The second half of life is where we move into the true self, and that is far more of an inner journey than an external journey, where we're building up things and experiences. And that's where we begin to realise that having achieved all these things, they're all lovely and wonderful and great for a while, but actually there's more to be discovered. And that's where we mine on the inside. And where we should, in the second half of life, be learning to let go of the need for these things, to not need to attach and cling on nearly so much to these external roles, where who I am is not dependent on my job. Who I am is not dependent on my girlfriend or my husband, or, you know, it's discovering who I really am, and that's beyond all these roles.
Because I speak to a lot of gangsters, Angela, well, former criminals, people who've done a lot of bad in life, but when you actually break it down, I don't glorify these men, but when you actually break it down, you'll tend to see a lot of these guys were bullied or abused when they were younger. So the defence mechanism comes in where they hold a gun or a knife. That's their shield of protection. It's wrong, yes, but that's their way of trying to not get hurt again. And before, I remember meeting you last year or 2 years ago, and we spoken about the inner child. Can you explain to people who are watching what the inner child is?
So the inner child's a marvellous part of us. It's not it's not a physical part in our bodies, but it's a part in our sense of self, and it's our experiences. It's very vulnerable, it's very creative, it's very magical. So the magical child is all the beautiful aspects of our vulnerability, our wonderfulness, our awe. Our fascination. If you think about, you used to jump off the couch and think you were jumping off the Empire State Building with a tea towel down the back of your neck. All these things, the ability to use the imagination, and we all have this wonderful reservoir of magicalness within us, and that's the magical child, the inner child. And many of us have the wounded inner child, or the damaged inner child. And that is that magical wonderment got knocked out of us. We got the stuffing knocked out of us one way or another. Whether it was through abandonment, whether it was through abuse, whether it was through rejection, whether it was and abuse can take all sorts, emotional, physical, sexual, that we got stunted in life at one point. We realised that it was a scary place. And some of us, for some of us, that part of us get frozen in time. And that part can take over on a regular basis. Now, for some people who are really damaged, it can take over their lives. And they allow that damaged inner child to say, I'll never trust anyone again. So, whatever the survival strategies were that you developed, you continue to use them in your daily life today, even though the war's over.
Before we finish up, we'll touch on a couple of more things, but the law of attraction, the secret, I see a lot of people talking about it. It's not just a case of visualising things. I believe you've got to believe it, first of all, but you've got to work your ass off to get it. What's your opinion on the law of attraction? I know you've spoke about it at the end of your book. You speak about the mindset and the belief, and if you do something consistent, it can change the way you think, the way you feel. How do you feel about the visualisation kind of things when it talks about the law of attraction?
I think it's lovely. I think it's entry level spirituality is fine. The idea that if we begin to believe and look for the good in ourselves and others and in situations, that we will manifest more of the good in our lives. My problem is with it all is if you get stuck at the material level, that it becomes like God is Santa. If I just think I want that, then I'll get it. And it's like, is that it? Is that, and sometimes what I say is, hey, look, all these amazing books have been out since the 1960s. Look at the state of the world. Come on, there's more to it than this. Yeah. Don't get stuck as God is Santa. Look, if we can begin to look more at the potential of recognising that you are a spiritual being human, and that there's more to life than getting the girl, getting the car, getting the silver bracelet, getting the job. If we get stuck at that material, physical level, we know that if we think positively and we focus on, positive things, we'll tend to manifest more of that in our lives. But don't stop there. Don't stop at manifesting stuff. And everybody can't have a jet and an island in Fiji, sorry, Tony Robbins, but everybody can't. We need to say, well, if there's any truth in this, what if we were to allow ourselves to be used for the greater good? What if we were to move into service? And what if we were to be in the flow of that loving, benevolent energy that I would call grace? And what if I was to say, use me, rather than what can I get? I want a new Rolex.
For anybody watching who's maybe in the struggle and looking for some advice from books, what books would you say is good read for someone who's maybe trying to get a bit of self-help or a better understanding?
That's really going to depend. I'm obviously going to say my own book.
Of course, apart from Love Never Dies.
No, I'm joking. No. So some of the books I mentioned one earlier on, I think Awareness by Anthony DeMello, that might be a wee bit too down the spiritual path for some people, but I think it's an amazing book. Another favourite of mine is The Road Less Travelled by M. Scott Peck, who was a top American psychotherapist, and it's an absolutely amazing book. But one of the basics was a book that I read way back, and it goes way back to the 60s, and that was Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life.
That's so powerful.
There's another one I can't remember the name of. I can't remember the name of the author. Is it Carol Truman? But I think it's a Karol. And it's Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. That's as it says in the title. I could go on all day about amazing books, but those would be the ones that would be good, kind of general ones.
So, plans for the future then? You've got yourself fit and healthy again.
I'm getting myself fit and healthy again.
What's the plans then? You're going to go back to work? Are you going to take more time off?
I've not really stopped. I mean, I kind of stopped in that I couldn't physically go to work, but I'm doing this. I'm involved in a few speaking projects, and I'm still writing. I'm writing the Great Pray Love book, which is for cancer, for people or those affected by cancer, or those around them who might be looking for support and advice. So I will be going back to seeing clients eventually, but I'm going to take the chance to pare things down a bit, cut back a wee bit on the work front. And one of the things that came out for me was that there were a lot of places when I thought I might not make it, which you do when you get a diagnosis. I thought, I never got to see. I wanted to go to Budapest. I wanted to go to Istanbul. There's things I wanted. I wanted to go away. I wanted to have a camper van for a month. So there were a lot of things that were on the bucket list, which I now call the lucky list, and say I'm very lucky I've got the chance to do these things. So there's a lot of things I want to do that mean I want a healthier work-life balance. I think probably I have been working too hard for too long, and I need to ease off the gas a wee bit in that front. So I'm going back, but I'm going back at a much more gentle pace.
Do you think that's made you realise that you need to, instead of, it's great to help others, but you also need to help yourself?
You must.
Yeah, and everybody's got these bucket lists, but the majority of people don't follow them through because they always think they've got time.
Yeah.
When really...
You don't know.
Yeah, we've not got a clue. Your book, Love Never Dies, we'll put it in the description. Great book for the links. People can get this Amazon,
paperback, Kindle or Audible. You'd think I'd never done this before. Yeah.
And how can people, and we'll put our TEDx interview, which I think is 17-18 minutes long. We'll put your social media links as well.
Oh, wonderful.
For anybody maybe want to get involved and maybe want to have a chat with you or maybe get you to have a talk, how can they get your information? So
they can contact the Harvest Clinic, which is just www.harvestclinic.co.uk is the website, and the email's on there, but it's info@harvestclinic.co.uk.
We'll put all that in the description. But before we finish up, you've got a wee robin here at the front cover. There's a story behind this. Yeah. You want to tell the story?
Yeah. So the robin, spiritually, some people say that the robin signifies a message from those on the other side. And I do tell lots of stories in the book, but they're still ongoing. That when my father died, robins were just an ongoing feature in my life. They've came to the window, they've landed virtually on my hand, they tap the window to me, and it's been an ongoing motif that has just gone on. And often when I would be at my lowest ebb, my worst moment, or really missing him terribly, and I would even cry out and say, I miss you, Dad. I'd turn round and there'd be a wee robin sitting right on that branch there. So it's been a constant theme of the appearance of the robin.
Do you think that's for people who's maybe passed away, for them to come back and show that they're still here, or it's a sign, or there's your spirit
I don't
guide?
think my dad's a robin. I don't think he's I talk about butterflies and the wild geese. I don't think he's a wild goose or a butterfly, but I believe that we're all one. And I believe that when our egos and our overcoats go, we go back to being part of the ocean again, where we were a wave. During our life, we're a wave, and we think we're on our own. We're just a wave, and you're a wave, and he's a wave. But actually, we're all part of the ocean. But we don't realise we're part of the ocean very much. We think we're a wave. And we do our dance up onto the beach. But actually, you're part of the ocean. I believe that when we pass over the veil, we go back into the ocean, and we're the ocean again. We're not a separate wave. So I believe that nature is very much the ocean. So I believe that the ocean can talk to us. It's not that my father, as he was Pat Trainer, is a robin. It's that he has given up that ego self, false self, and he's become part of the ocean again. But the ocean is everything in nature. And if you listen, nature speaks.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who have lost a loved one can maybe hear a certain song or see a robin or a butterfly, and it just gives them that wee peace of mind that is someone that they lost, and it makes them feel better. And if it makes them feel better, then go for it.
When you know how to listen, and you listen to your intuition, you quieten things down, and you learn some of the things that we've spoken about as ways of fine-tuning your radio signal. Remember the old radio grams that they had? They put it on during the war, and it would that's what our lives are like. But if you keep tuning, eventually you'll get it into stereo sound. And it's learning the things that help to keep you tuned in. And then the answers come.
Angela, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, to hear your story, and it's great. Happy birthday again. She is 60, everyone.
Oh, shush.
But it's good to see you fighting fit again.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to read your next book. No doubt we'll keep in touch. Plenty more on the pipeline, so thank you.
Thanks very much, James. Thank you.